Ma tohu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tohu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Park, and all of our guests. We use a booklet, a siddur, made for Shalom Park. If you're following along, we're on page 2. Lehu neranana ladonai nariya letzuyeshenu. Lehu neranana ladonai nariya letzuyeshenu. Nikad mavana v'toda bizmirot nariya lo. Lehu neranana ladonai nariya letzuyeshenu. Lehu neranana ladonai nariya letzuyeshenu. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose and meaning. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may we live in such a way that this Shabbat day fulfills its promise to us. Come, let us sing joyfully to God a new song. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along. The earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. I will sing unto God a new song. Yismechu hashamayim v'tagel haaretz yiram hayam umlo'o. Let the heavens rejoice and the earth be glad. Let the seas roar and all within it thunder. Adonai malach tagel haaretz yismechu yiyim rabim. Anan va'arafel sevivav tzedek umishpat machon kiso. Light is sown for the righteous, and joy for the upright in heart. Exalt in Adonai, you righteous, and give thanks to God's holy name, or Zeruah Letzadik ul Yishrei Lev Simcha. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu v'hishtachavu lahar kodsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. On page 6, we greet the Sabbath bride. Ya la 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 chadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat ni Kabbalat lechadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat ni Kabbalat la 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 shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad ishmiyanu el hamiyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem tiferet v'liti la 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 chadodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat Kabbalah Lecha Dodi Likra Kala Pnei Shabbat Kabbalah la 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 Likra Shabbat Lechu V'necha Ki Makor HaBaracha Merosh Mikedem Nesucha Sof Ma'asa B'Machshavati la 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 Lecha Dodi Likra Kala Pnei Shabbat Kabbalah Lecha Dodi Likra Kala Pnei Shabbat Kabbalah la 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 la. We rise spiritually or physically as you are able to greet the Sabbath bride. Boli v'shalom ateret bala kam simcha tzochala toch amunei am segula boi chala la 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 chadodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat Kabbalah Lecha Dodi Likra Kala Pnei Shabbat Pnei Shabbat Pnei Shabbat Kabbalah la 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 la. Page 10, the Psalm for Shabbat. Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat Tov lehodot l'Adonai. It's good to give thanks to God. Tov lehodot l'Adonai u'lizameh l'shimcha elyon l'hagid Baboker Chasdecha Ve'emunatecha Balelot Yalalai Yalalala 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 Yalalala. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. They shall thrive like the cedars of Lebanon planted in the house of Adonai. They shall flourish in the courts of our God. Middle of page 11. Tzadik Adama Yifrach Yifrach Tzadik Adama Yifrach Tzadik Adama Yifrach Yifrach Tzadik Adama Yifrach Ke'eres belvanon yiske Ke'eres belvanon yiske Ke'eres belvanon yiske yiske Ke'eres belvanon yiske Ke'eres belvanon yiske Ke'eres belvanon yiske yiske. Page 13, the call to worship. Teach me, God, a blessing, a prayer, on the mystery of a withered leaf, unripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise, as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today as the one before, lest routine set my ways. Ma'u'et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed Uma'avir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv, Aravim. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way in which time and seasons glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows, from whom love flows, Ahavat Olam, love of the world, followed by the Shema, the watchword of our faith, and the V'ahavta, returning that love to God. And you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart and your soul and your might. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah Mitzvot Chukim Mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al Kein Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbeinu V'kumeinu Nasiach Bechukecha V'nismach B'divrei Toratecha Mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem hayenu v'orech yameinu uvahem negeh yomam v'layla Adonai, Ohei Lamo Yisrael, Ohei Lamo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai, Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele Asher Anochi Mitzavacha Hayom Al Levavecha V'shinantam Levanecha V'dibarta bam B'shivtecha B'veitecha U'v'lachtecha V'aderech U'v'shochbecha U'v'kumecha U'kshartam Le'ot Al yadecha v'hayu l'totafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mizzovetecha u'vish arecha. Middle of 19. You shall make for yourself seat on the corners of your garments throughout the ages. The seat are a reminder to do all my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. Adonai Elohechem emet. Out of Egypt and across the Sea of Reeds to the other side, so we could begin our trek towards Canaan, what we now know as Israel. Page 20. Michamocha, Belim Adonai, Mikamocha, Nedar Bakodesh, Norah Tehilot, Osefele, Norah Tehilot, Osefele, Mahutechara Uvanecha, Bokei Ayam, Lifnei Moshe, Ze'eli Anu Ve'amaru, Adonayim Loch Lelam Va'ed, Michamocha, Belim Adonai, Mikamocha, Nedar Bakodesh, Norah Tehilot, Osefele, Norah Tehilot, Osefele, V'nemar Kifod Adonai, Et Yaakov, Ugoalo Miyad Hazak Mimenu, Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael, Michamocha, Belim Adonai, Mikamocha, Nedar Bakodesh, Norah Tehilot, Osefele, Norah Tehilot, Osefele. Help us, God, to lie down in peace and raise us up to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of peace and guide us with your good counsel. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu l'shalom. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu l'shalom. Ushmor tzeitenu, uvoenu l'chaim u'l'shalom. Ushmor tzeitenu, uvoenu l'chaim u'l'shalom. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu l'shalom. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu l'shalom. Ufros aleinu, Sukkot shlomecha. Ufros aleinu, Sukkot shlomecha. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu l'shalom. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu, Eloheinu l'shalom. We give thanks for the seventh day. First, God worked for 6 days, and on the seventh day, God rested. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dur tambarit olam, beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, b'nei Yisrael, ot hi La'olam v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dur tambarit olam, ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'dur tambarit olam, u'vayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, v'shamru Shamaru B'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat L'dortam B'rit Olam. We continue on page 26 with the Hatzi Kaddish to be followed by the Amidah, our conversation with God. Please rise as you are able, physically or spiritually. And when we're done with the Amidah, please be seated. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba B'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chaye delcho beit Yisrael Bagala uv'izman kariv v'maru amen Yehi shmei Rabba mevarach la'alam u'olmei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran belma v'maru amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, v'Konei Hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot, u'mevi go'el livnei v'neihem, l'ma'an shemo, v'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham, u'vokei tzara, atah gibor le'olam Adonai, V'chaye metim atarav lehoshia morid hatal v'chakel chayim b'chesed v'chaye metim b'rachamim rabim zomech noflim v'rofei cholim umatir asurim umekayem Emunato lishenei afar micha mocha ba'al gevurot umito melech memihit umechaye umatzmiach Yeshua v'nemanata v'hachayot metim Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hametim Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh Vayechulu hashamayim v'ha'aretz v'chol tzva'am vayechol Elohim b'yom hashvi'i melachto asher asa v'yishbot b'yom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa v'yivarech Elohim et yom hashvi'i v'kadesh oto kivo shavat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. Page 34, middle of the page. O God, whose word was a shield to our ancestors, speak to us again in our own day. words which will shield us too. When we are burdened with sorrow, shield us from despair with your words of comfort. When we are riddled by doubt, shield us from cynicism with your words of faith. When we are disappointed or despondent, shield us from depression with words of hope. When we are bitter or angry, shield us from hatred with your words of love. When we are overwhelmed by life's circumstances, shield us from defeat with your words of promise. And when we are troubled by turbulence in our lives, shield us from chaos and confusion with your reassuring words of Shabbat peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Page 36. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavorech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom. Praise to you, Adonai, who blesses God's people with everlasting peace. We take a moment for silent prayer. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al hu Yisrael, ve'imru imaru amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. V'ima'u amen. So this week's Torah portion is a double portion. It's called Tazria Metzorah. And it's about what we used to think was leprosy. And how people who wind up with these patches of white have to be put outside of the encampment and isolated. And only when a priest says it's okay are they allowed to come back into the community. I think many of us now can empathize with what it is to be isolated from community. So I have a story for you. It's called The Power of Encouragement. Jean Thompson stood in front of her 5th grade class on the very first day of school in the fall and told the children a lie. Like most teachers, she looked at her pupils and said that she loved them all the same, that she would treat them all alike. And that was impossible, because there in front of her, slumped in his seat in the 3rd row, was a little boy named Teddy. Mrs. Thompson had watched Teddy the year before and noticed he didn't play well with the other children. His clothes were unkempt, and he constantly needed a bath, and Teddy was unpleasant. It got to the point during the first few months that she would actually take delight in marking his papers with a broad red pen, making bold X's and then marking the F at the top of the paper. Because Teddy was a sullen little boy, no one else seemed to enjoy him either. At the school where Mrs. Thompson taught, she was required to review each child's records, and she put Teddy's off until the last. When she opened his file, she was in for a surprise. His first grade teacher had written, "Teddy is a bright, inquisitive child with a ready laugh. He does his work neatly and has good manners. He is a joy to be around." His second grade teacher wrote, "Teddy is an excellent student, well liked by his classmates, but he is troubled because his mother has a terminal illness, and life at home must be a struggle." His third grade teacher wrote, "Teddy continues to work hard, but his mother's death has been hard on him. He tries to do his best, but his father doesn't show much interest, and home life will soon affect him if steps are not taken." And Teddy's fourth grade teacher had written, "Teddy is withdrawn and doesn't show much interest in school. He doesn't have many friends and sometimes sleeps in class. He is tardy and could become a problem." By now, Mrs. Thompson realized the problem with Teddy stuttered. But holiday break was coming fast, and it was all that she could do to keep up with the school play until the day before the holidays began, and she was suddenly forced to focus on Teddy. Her children brought her presents, all in beautiful ribbons and bright paper except for Teddy's, which was clumsily wrapped in a heavy brown paper of a scissored grocery bag. Mrs. Thompson took pains to open it in the middle of the other presents. Some of the children started to laugh when she found a rhinestone bracelet with some of the stones missing, and a bottle that was 1/4 full of cologne. She stifled the children's laughter when she exclaimed how pretty the bracelet was, putting it on and dabbing some of the perfume behind her other wrist. Teddy Stoddard stayed behind long enough to say, "Mrs. Thompson, today you smell just like my mother used to." After the children left, she cried for at least an hour. On that very day, she quit teaching reading, writing, and speaking, and instead began to teach children. Jean Thompson paid particular attention to one they called Teddy. As she worked with him, his mind seemed to come alive. The more she encouraged him, the faster he responded. On days there would be an important test, Mrs. Thompson would remember the cologne. By the end of the year, he had become one of the most accomplished children in the class. And, well, he had also become her pet. The teacher who once vowed to love all her children exactly the same. A year later, she found a note under her door from Teddy, telling her that of all the teachers he had had in elementary school, she was his favorite. 6 years went by before she got another note from Teddy. He wrote that he had finished high school, 3rd in his class, and she was still his favorite teacher. 4 years after that, she got another letter, saying that while things had been tough at times, he'd stayed in school. Sticking with it, he would graduate from college with the highest of honors. He assured Mrs. Thompson she was still his favorite. Then 4 more years passed, and yet another letter came. This time he explained that after he had gotten his bachelor's degree, he decided to go a little further. The letter explained she was still his favorite teacher, but that now his new name was a little longer. The letter was signed, Theodore F. Stoddard, MD. The story doesn't end there. You see, there was yet another letter that spring. Teddy said he'd met this girl and was to be married. He explained that his father had died a couple of years ago, and he was wondering if Mrs. Thompson might agree to sit in the pew usually reserved for the mother of the groom. And on that special day, Jean Thompson wore the bracelet, the one with the missing rhinestones. And on that special day, Jean Thompson smelled the way Teddy's Teddy remembered his mother smelling on the last holiday they had had together. They hugged each other, and Dr. Stoddard whispered in Mrs. Thompson's ear, "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson, for believing in me. Thank you so much for making me feel important and showing me that I could make a difference." Mrs. Thompson, with tears in her eyes, whispered back, "Teddy, you have it all wrong. You were the one who taught me that I could make a difference. I didn't know how to teach until I met you." Now, the moral of the story that's posted with the story says, you never can tell what type of impact you may make on another's life by the actions or lack of action you take. But let me expound for just a moment. When we look at those on the outskirts of our bubble, those that have been shunted to areas of isolation, those that have been unseen and forgotten, especially during this past year, let us remember that as much as those individuals have time to consider what they can do to change their circumstances, it also gives us the same time to consider what we can do to change circumstances so that they neither continue nor return to exile. For it happens that too often that time of isolation follows one like a flashing sign. But let's remember that there are times when we find ourselves confined, pushed into our own Mitzrayim, those narrow straits, through no or little fault of our own. We take a moment to sing prayers for healing. Healing of the body, healing of the soul. Habracha imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. And let us say, Amen. Hold in your hearts, say their names out loud, put it into the chat. All those who need healing, all those who need support, all those who are still isolated outside of anyone's bubble. Imotenu makor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Take a moment to send your prayers and your wishes out into the community, the state, our country, around the world, and up into the heavens. Aleinu is on page 39. As you are able, please rise physically or spiritually for the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tek gedula le'yotze bereshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gur aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamelachim hakadosh baruch hu. Page 43. Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when superstition shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. Kakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimlach le'olam va'ed, v'nemar, v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol ha'aretz, v'yom hahu, v'yom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad. Page 44. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who have died at the season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own, Zikronam Livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. At Shalom Park, in the coming week, we remember Hannah Lori Jacobs, Wesley Nelson, Irving Moshe, Lindsay Samuel, Stas Gedzimogomerdovi, Ida Bloom, Martin Wilder, Matthew Polyakov, Antonin Alexeyeva, Sumi Imatani, Sarah Fogel, Sophie Goldman, Kenneth Richards, Vern Zoles, Ardith Johnson, Morris Tepper, Esther Laverde, Etta Vexland, Beverly Greenberg, Stuart Rothschild, Jack Posner, Kathleen Durbin, Stanley Gumbiner, Armik Merzik Hanova, Mary Lou Miller, Herbert Harvey, Joseph Schwartz, Lyle Ships, Nathan, and Betty Silverman. If there are other names that you have, please say them aloud now, or put them in the chat. If you are in the first week of mourning in Shiva, please rise. If you are in the 30 days Shaloshim, please rise. And if you are in the first year of mourning or observing a yahrzeit, the anniversary of a death, please rise. If it is your custom to rise for those who have no one to say Kaddish for them, please join us on page 45. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Ba'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, B'chaye chonu v'yomechonu v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach la'alam ul'olmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitala v'yithalal shmed kudsha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who brings peace to the heavens grant comfort to all who mourn, and together we say, Amen. Please be seated. We take a moment to light candles and to say Kiddush and Motzi, to bring in Shabbat and Shabbat joy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav mitzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Kiddush you will find on the last page of the Siddur if you are there. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'hava uvratzon hinhilanu zikaron l'maseh b'reshit ki hu yom tevilah l'mikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'harta v'otanu Kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha v'ahava uv'ratzon hinchaltanu baruch atah Adonai mikadesh ha'shabbat. Amen. And Motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Amotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. And we conclude our service. May you see the blessings in all your days. Notice beauty and sweetness and be amazed. May you love without bound. Ever feel God's surround. May you mend and tend. May you learn without end. May you see the blessing. May you seize the blessing. May you be a blessing in all of your days. Back to page 48 as we invite the angels to join us for Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech, Malchei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barhuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei HaMalachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbat Shalom. Have a beautiful weekend, a lovely week, and I will see you next Friday night for Shabbat.